Hey, so I just I tried to make a video going through my recent comments, and I didn't pre-read them or anything. And literally all of them were about anxiety in relation to your manifestation or life in general or whatever. Literally, like all the ones that I read. All of the first ones that I got to. I'm like, oh, okay, I started answering one. I'm like, oh, this is okay, this is what I just talked about. So let me just make a video about how to deal with anxiety in general as a person who rarely, if ever, experiences it. First of all, if it's not obvious what anxiety is, it's very clear. Anxiety is the fear that something bad is going to happen. It's that simple. It's fear of the unknown, and the unknown being bad. So one of the comments basically was very succinct. It was like, well, what if I know that I'm going to get the thing I want, but I still feel anxious about it? And here is the I think, this is not a hard question to answer. If you're feeling anxious about something that you want to manifest, you're obviously feeling anxious that it isn't going to happen. And the reason that that creates anxiety and bad feelings is because you feel that if that thing doesn't happen, it means something bad. So it's very clear that if you want to deal with anxiety in general, but especially, specifically in this area of manifestation, you have to change that thought that causes the anxiety. If this doesn't happen, that means something bad. It's that simple. If this doesn't happen, then that will mean that I don't have any influence over my reality. If this doesn't happen, that means I was not good enough to get it. If I don't get this thing I'm manifesting, it means I am not going to be fulfilled in this area. Okay? So you have to understand that those things are not true. You're existing in an illusion. The anxiety is coming from a false idea. Okay? So I think one of the easiest ways to address this is to recognize, and I'm sorry, go through the whole history of your life and you'll come up with a million examples of this. You need to recognize that what you think you want to have happen is not necessarily something that will be good for you. So if you try to manifest something and you don't get it, it doesn't happen, it's safe to assume that that thing was going to be bad for you, that it was user error, not manifestation error. So basically, you got a sensation that you interpreted as a desire for this specific outer thing. Okay? Now, can we all get on the same page here, please? That there are many ways for that process to go wrong. You get a sensation and you interpret it as desire. Okay? First of all, that, I think, is not even true half the time. You get a sensation and it is misinterpreted as wanting something. It could be something else. It could be a fear, and then that fear quickly gets twisted into a desire for something that would address the fear, when really all that needs to be addressed is the fear. Okay? So there's one way that process can go wrong right off the bat. So you get the sensation, you interpret it as a desire. Let's say that it in fact is a desire. Then that desire gets projected out onto a specific thing that you have interpreted as being the fulfillment of that desire. This is where it seems like there are a lot of people up in arms in the manifestation community, at least in my blessedly, thankfully limited exposure these days. But back in the day when I was very involved, this was a big thing for people. People feel like the insinuation that you could be wrong about what it is you think you want is just more than certain people can bear. And I gotta tell you, I got no time in this life for those people anymore. Bye-bye. Because it is absolutely a cold, hard fact that part of the failing of being a human is that sometimes you very strongly think you want something that if you had it, you would fucking hate it. You would hate it, it would ruin your life, it would send you off on a path you don't want to be on, and yet somehow you still believe you want this thing. Okay? So there are all kinds of ways that you can bring human error into the manifestation process, okay? And just forget all of the distortions that people have about their beliefs and ideas, and their wrong ideas about who they are, their wrong ideas about the world, all of that, and how that plays into influencing the interpretation of the desire, like the focus, where the focus of the desire ends up, okay? There is so much potential for error in that whole process that at the very least, what you should be able to take from that is that I don't always know what the right thing is for me. I don't always know what would fulfill this desire that I have. In fact, I don't always even know if what the sensation in my body is actually a desire. All right. All of that to say that when you start having anxiety about not getting something, you've got to come up with a way to talk yourself out of that. And a big part of that, I think, is assuming, like, purposely think about this, get it in there, and start to believe it, and start to remind yourself of this. If I don't get this specific thing that I'm manifesting, there's a good reason for that. The universe, divine intelligence, the thing that is trying to match me, like pull me to the fulfillment of the desire that I'm feeling, that thing has the perspective to understand what needs to happen in order for that fulfillment to happen. So if the thing I, with my little lowly human puny brain, have determined is the thing that would fulfill me does not happen, then the only thing that it can be is that there is something different that will fulfill that. And my limited sight is not allowing me to see what that thing is right now. It's amazing to me how I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm fired up about this. It's amazing to me how freaking obvious this is. Like, this is so clearly the way it works. You can probably look back on your own life and prove it to yourself in about 5 minutes. And yet, this is one of those things where, like, basement wizards with samurai swords on the wall and stuff are like, oh, that's a cope. You know, it's whatever. You have to be able to tell yourself these things. Because living in a state of anxiety, like, I don't give a shit what is happening in your life. There is no, in my opinion, there is no greater hell than living in a state of anxiety. And I will do anything and everything to avoid that state. You know, luckily for me, self-talk is the way out of pretty much everything. Like, you have to get a set of beliefs in place that gives you peace. And when you have that, when you have a set of beliefs in place that makes you feel peace, you can't go wrong, because that's sort of like the indicator. That's like the grand indicator of whether or not you're in the right place. Are you feeling peace? Are you feeling, not necessarily every minute of every day, but are you feeling a sense of well-being popping up here and there? Like, are you feeling calm enough that you can actually enjoy things that are in your present, current, right now environment? That's how you know you are in the right general vicinity of where you need to be in order to manifest stuff, because that's the state from which it's extremely easy to manifest things. And then when you get a desire and it disrupts your peace, the first thing you should think is, well, something about this is off, because, this just knocked me out of this sort of central place of calmness, from which everything manifests. The sort of state of no mind where you're just here present. That's where, like, you get a little inkling of something and all of a sudden you know how to do it, or you know how to get it, or it just comes to you. So this anxiety issue, I think, is really important to address, because anxiety coming up, while it's natural and normal for humans to feel this, it is not natural and normal for humans to be existing in this state all day, every day, which I personally know, and this seems to be like an issue with generational, something happened. The generation, like, right after me, they're like, everybody is just like, anxiety is like such a topic and issue for everybody. I don't know. Something happened. Some coping skill was not learned thanks to the changes of the last couple of decades, which, and there's always a trade-off. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of benefit to the way things changed over the last couple decades for people. It's nice that people don't feel like it's nice that kids don't get bullied in school much anymore, I guess. Do they? It's nice that there's a push for a lot of acceptance of a lot of things. That's a good thing. But man, there is this trade-off of this mass anxiety. And it really sucks, because that is just not a productive state to be in. And I would assume you can still get things done from that state, but just anytime I'm in it, it's the most unpleasant thing that it would destroy any happiness that was brought about by the manifestation of the 3D thing, that it just like would render it kind of worthless to me. So you have to deal with that fear in its most simplistic form. That feeling of anxiety is fear of what it would mean if you don't get this thing, okay? And it's that simple. Here's the meaning. Here's the meaning if you try to manifest something and you don't get it. It means one of two things, both of which are good for you, okay? It either means that you have shifting to do in order to get it, which means it's in your control, and all you have to do is go down that rabbit hole of, why am I so resistant to this thing manifesting? You can change that, and then you can get it, period. Or it's your fulfillment in that area is going to come to you in a way that you have not anticipated. It's just not the way that you intended or the way that you thought it would happen. I think if you can't get to the point where you're humble enough to understand that you don't know, I think that, it's going to be a spotty type of experience when it comes to success with this stuff. It's going to work here, it's not going to work there, it's going to work here, and then you're going to lose it and go right back to where you were. And not only that, but you're not going to be enjoying the process at all. You're not going to be enjoying your life. You're not going to be happy, which is really, if you don't have happiness, what is the point? I know it's really difficult also if you just have like generalized anxiety about like what's coming in the future and you think it's going to be bad. It's really helpful if you just remind yourself of a couple things. One, that humans are very adaptable. And that two, you're already living in the unknown. When you were afraid of 2025 in 2015, when you were like, God, what, it's so scary. I'm going to be older and I don't know what I'm going to be doing or whatever. You're there now. And maybe it isn't what you want it to be now. And maybe the things you were worried about happening did happen, but it's not the way you thought it would be. You know what I mean? It's not, you're handling it. Look, you're working on it. You're doing something about it. You're already living in the unknown right now. It's an illusion. The future is an illusion. The only thing is right now, you're going to be able to handle anything that happens. And anyway, this is all a freaking illusion. And let's just say, oh my God, there's a bomb and you get killed. Okay, now you popped out and you're in non-physical form. And by all accounts, it's pretty much all good over there. And you can probably come back if you want and do something else here. Like, just, there's no point in worrying about any of this stuff. So much of the stuff that people have anxiety about, it's just like, quit it. Like, you don't have enough other stuff to worry about. I asked my mom not that long ago at Christmas. I was asking my mom and all of her level people, her age, I should say. I was like, do you guys remember the 70s? Like, the dollar lost so much value in the 70s. I was just thinking, I've like noticed all the inflation over the last 5 years, and I was just thinking, how did people deal with their money being worth so much less in the 70s? Like, it was such a decline, supposedly. And I was just like, did this really happen? Like, did this really impact the average person, like at the grocery store, the way it is now? And I asked my mom this, and she said, I was so busy, like with, she was a teacher, she was like, I was so busy with you and your brother and, taking care of the house and all that stuff. I just didn't even notice. I didn't even pay attention. But then I asked another one of her friends, and she had a completely different, she remembered her husband like buying all kinds of physical assets and stuff to protect their money. My parents didn't have a lot of money back then, I don't think so. I don't know, maybe it was just like they were a little more strapped than usual, but didn't really like feel it in the form of assets losing value or something, but, you know, it's possible to just completely miss everything that's happening when bad things are happening. There are a lot of people out there that don't even notice it. So, you got to find something to put your attention on, something else to put your attention on, besides the bad things that you might think are coming, which probably aren't even going to happen. Anyway, I don't know. I hope that this helped anybody. This is really kind of a simple thing. It really is. It's just a matter of if you're willing to deal with it. Are you willing to deal with it? Because there's no magic formula. You know, you really just have to find a mentality that fixes it. And nobody can really do that but you. You know, your anxiety is fear of the unknown. It's fear of something bad happening. What is that bad thing that you fear happening? You don't get your manifestation. What does that mean? Are you always going to be miserable? Are you always going to be struggling? That's absurd. Okay? That's absurd. Manifestation and mental influence and all that stuff is real. You don't have to worry about that not being real because your manifestation didn't work out. That's not what it means, okay? It's user error. It's always user error. You either misinterpreted the feeling of desire or you misinterpreted what the thing was that was going to bring you the fulfillment. How do people always think they know? I'll never get this. This is not something I struggle with, like at all. How do people get so dead set on what they think is going to fulfill them? Like, have you not had a million experiences? Can you not look back on your life and say, if I had gotten that thing, it would have been terrible for me. If I had gotten my way in this area, I would never have been in this place at this time and met the love of my life. Can you not come up with examples like that? It's direct evidence that you don't always know what you want. You don't always know. You might see something you want and you might enjoy that thing if you got it, but getting that thing might prevent you from getting an even bigger thing that you would like even better, that will, be the ultimate fulfillment of your desire that you can't even really understand. It's too big for the human mind. I hope that helps somebody. It is time for me to buy groceries now, and for me to get out of the parking lot of the grocery store so people can stop looking at me like I'm insane. Have a great day.